We know that the surface of the Earth was once covered with enormous vegetation, so we might ask ourselves, where did all the other trees go? Surprisingly, these so-called mesas are few in number, because the best trees were selected for cutting, while the others were uprooted by massive explosive waves. We have shown only the trunks with flat tops, but does anyone remember what broken trees look like? I'll remind you, but do you understand my hint? No? Then let's play the same game again, and find 10 differences between the two pictures. I believe you grasp the meaning of my words. Therefore, I want you to look at the towering stumps on Earth's surface, which were once regarded as quarries but were shattered by explosions. For example, the Everest tree. As you have already guessed, there are no rocks on our land. They are all merely fragments of broken trunks. You can examine millions of pictures, but the only thing you will find are the remains of our true environment. So how do scientists in the official sciences explain the origin of rocks? I believe you've guessed that too, and now you understand why we are enchanted. And why are elite properties embedded in rocks? And why are the purest materials used for construction pieces of rock? Because even in death, they still emit a powerful energy toward us. We are mortal human beings made of carbon, while stone is the bridge between silicon and carbon-based life forms. The crucial thing you must now understand is how to distinguish between rocks and mountains, for they are entirely different. Rocks are composed of solid chunks of coarse stone with fibrous fragments reaching toward the sky. But a mountain is merely a heap of waste brought by giant machines, with an almost conical shape like all new structures. Sometimes, these heaps contain chemical waste. Sometimes, this waste reacts with itself. Sometimes, it ignites, and sometimes it explodes. At this point, the white-coated enthusiasts claim they've discovered a volcano, and will tell you tales from the crypt about how a silica trunk was formed by a lava flow 200 million years ago. Or they'll explain how the hexagonal tiles of our streets also resulted from an ancient volcanic eruption. Thus, there is no such thing as volcanoes, rocks, or mountains, and you can remove these terms from your vocabulary. From our windows, we can see that all the rocks on Earth are merely the remains of silicon-based life forms. You might wonder, were all rocks originally trees, as not all of them have structures resembling Devil's Tower? Some of these rocks have shiny, plate-like structures, or spongy petrified formations like mushrooms. This is because, just as the liver differs from the heart or the lungs, our ancient world was so diverse that we cannot know or even imagine the number of species and lineages that once existed, just like the diversity of mushrooms we know today. Let me tell you that Justine and Wake Up Human have covered this topic in great detail and have presented groundbreaking work on geology and the function of excavators. So, allow me to introduce you to this colossal excavator, one of the largest rotary excavators in the world. Observe how these machines operate. They crawl powerfully on their wheels, moving parallel to the quarry wall. Giant wheels with scoops scratch the rocks and earth, leaving behind a concave wall. It seems that geologists were hypnotized when they were students in school. And why not? They call the quarry waste natural wonders. For example, this cliff in Australia. Would you like to laugh? If you don't believe in the absurdity of the age we live in, look up Wave Rock and check the official explanation. It's unbelievable. How do people believe this? Some will ask, which stone was part of the living plant, and which was not? I want to tell you that at least 7,500 years ago, there was absolutely no such thing as stones. Everything you see now was part of our ecosystem, but some people wanted to become gods, and they destroyed everything. Open the windows of your mind. They live while we sleep. But they don't just live, they are killing our Earth. They are doing it now while you watch this video. Wake up, people, and review everything they taught you in elementary school, middle school, high school, and university. History, geography, geology. For instance, we have been told that we have achieved a level of technological advancement today that was unattainable in the past. Well, open your minds and examine these images. We possess numerous artifacts that we cannot replicate today due to certain technicians who have concealed technology from us, leading to a shortage of equipment and experts. These relics are evidence that our civilization was far more advanced even 200 years ago, and before, compared to our present day. Today, we are merely children playing in the sand. Here are a few examples. The Babalvo bath. Made of granite and weighing 48 tons. We are told that this bathtub was crafted manually over 7 years, and is polished daily as if by Papa Carlo. Referring to the man who made the Pinocchio puppet. What nonsense! As a certified lathe operator of the 5th level, I tell you that this work represents the precision of a machine. The concave and convex surfaces of this tub are so precise across the entire diameter, and the spherical surface at the bottom, both inside and out, is impeccably crafted. Thus, it is impossible to achieve such work by hand, especially when it comes to polishing. I believe this piece was produced recently using machines, and the polishing technique is identical to that used on the columns of St. Isaac's Cathedral. Completing this work without high precision, high-speed polishing machines is virtually impossible. The second example, the Alexandrian column. Weighing 610 tons, standing 27 meters tall, and made of granite. It is impossible to produce this manually without rotating it on a lathe, as the column has a curvature that cannot be achieved by hand. The third example, Ollantaytambo in Peru. These are polygonal blocks connected together, ranging in weight from 40 to 120 tons. You can see the level of precision used yourself, as the blocks are parallel in 3 dimensions. The Capella Sansevero. Made from a single piece of marble, and it is impossible to achieve such a work without the use of an advanced CNC machine. In the last 50 years, nothing has emerged that even approaches the complexity of this statue, and no sculptor has ever created anything comparable, not even with the latest CNC machines. The Stone Bridge in Sevastopol. Where each polygonal stone in the bridge is a separate sculpture. While here is an example of modern work. The stone on the left is considered acceptable by today's standards. Maybe you know that entire cities were built from stone in the old style, with pre-planned streets, roads, dams, and so on, and the cities were often surrounded by a stone wall equal in size to the entire city's construction. But somewhere between 1780 and 1815, we experienced a nuclear war. Perhaps not the first in the world, which led to a nuclear winter in 1816, a year without summer, known to the Anglo-Saxons as the Year of Frozen Death. Here are some Google Earth snapshots showing nuclear craters in places like Belarus. You can easily find such craters, and the white remnants around them are made of crushed limestone, the primary raw material of that time. To grasp the extent of the damage, search for Roger Fenton Crimea or James Robertson Crimea, and you'll find that these early photographers, sent to Crimea in 1853 after the nuclear war to capture images of the siege of Sevastopol, left us photos bearing witness to this war and destruction. Here is an image from Sevastopol, photographed by Roger Fenton. Compare the vegetation then with that of today. You may also observe that, up until the 18th century, houses were entirely built from limestone, and advanced machines were used to cut the stone into perfect rectangles. Notice that all the houses in the old cities of the Soviet Union are covered with a layer of clay, 3 to 4 meters deep, yet these buildings have retained their quality. They have been buried for 200 years, and during the Soviet era, these limestone-built homes were considered exceptionally well-made. Here are further examples of what humanity accomplished in the past using advanced, giant machinery. This is Eski Kerman, and illiterate guides will tell you that this is one of the cave cities in the Crimean Peninsula, where people lived in the past. When I asked about this path, I was told it was made by the wheels of local nobles' carriages. And here is another so-called cave city in Crimea. This is a modern quarry where limestone is extracted. Also, this photo was taken before the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, showing precisely cut slices of limestone, with a railway track running below where houses were built. Now, here's an important photograph taken in 1890 of a quarry called Spani. You can easily see the carved passages through the hill, 100 meters wide and 80 meters high. Beneath the vertical wall, we can see small pieces of limestone and debris that fell due to drilling by machines. And in front of the passages, houses are clearly visible. Some of these passages are the beginnings of catacombs, some extending for hundreds of kilometers. They conducted large-scale mining to extract limestone. And during World War II, hospitals, warehouses, and command posts were set up inside the catacombs, with trucks freely entering and exiting. By the way, there are catacombs in almost every city in the world. And near Odessa, there is a catacomb stretching 1,500 kilometers. So, what we knew as rocks, gorges, valleys, and cliffs are nothing more than quarry waste, and there are many ancient and modern quarries. This white rock in Belogorsk, near Crimea, is a limestone quarry where the wall was formed as a result of cutting the slope. Would you like to see more? Look at this passage where a large block of limestone was extracted. They lied to you about it. Guess what they call it? They call it a valley. It's a beautiful wonder of the earth, but check out this photo. It's an old photograph to the same place from the 19th century, where no vegetation had yet grown over the limestone. And here's an old painting from 1855, where we can see the waste of the massive ancient quarry in the background. Are you astonished by the scale of mining in the Crimean Peninsula alone? Well, let me tell you more. There is not a cubic meter, possibly to a depth of 100 meters, across the entire Earth that has not been extracted, ground, and chewed up in that era. So, we live in a massive quarry waste pit, where the entire periodic table of elements, Mendeleev's table, was extracted in the most violent and barbaric manner. Now look at these pictures, and pay attention to the stepped structure of the quarries. The extracted blocks, cut by massive rotary machines, show right angles when viewed from above. I want to show you now images of mountains, hills, valleys, passages, and slopes, almost uninhabited today, which are romantically named, often after those who discovered them. I really wonder, are all academics, professors of geology, and other science enthusiasts blind not to see this? Look at these images. The mountain in the Kola Peninsula, whose name I do not know. Mountains in Antarctica, which were only discovered in 1820. Even here, in Antarctica, we find traces of heavy machinery and equipment. Greenland, the Watkins Mountains. Look at the scale of mining. Another image of Greenland from a flight from Frankfurt to Los Angeles. John Bighorn, the highest mountain in Greenland, at 3,700 meters. No problem, it's almost entirely hollowed out. Svalbard in Norway, with the Aurora Borealis in the background of quarry waste. The Transantarctic Mountains, where traces of machinery are still visible at the base. Again, the Transantarctic Mountains, where we see quarry systems. Mount Kailash in Tibet, standing 6,830 meters tall. Have you ever seen in our time heavy mining equipment reaching such heights? Goblin Valley State Park in Utah, USA. The Gloss Mountains in Oklahoma. The Grand Canyon in Arizona, USA. It's just a giant quarry waste zone, while millions of tourists believe they're gazing upon one of the world's wonders, simply because they've been told so. The quarry itself again, where no signs of water erosion are found, only traces of explosives on silicon plants. The Rock Quarry in Pittsburgh. The Grand Canyon Quarry once more, where we see the marks of stone cutting by circular saw. A quarry in Australia, in the Blue Mountains. The Blue Mountains from another angle. And the same mountains again, where we see the vertical wall. Compare it to the marble quarry in the Alps. And here's the marble quarry in the Alps. A massive quarry, and I don't know where this desktop background image came from online. Caprock Canyons in the Texas National Park. Another national park created from exhausted quarry waste in the USA. Note that in some quarries, there is a high level of moisture, so people grow crops. These are now the rice terraces, like rice terraces in Bono. Here are the rice terraces again in Bono. And this is the National Cliff of Chile in the USA, where it seems saws carved out the tunnels. These are the so-called Painted Hills in Oregon. Raven Mountains in South Africa. The Orange River and the mountains. Timna National Park in Palestine, it's just a quarry. The Green Valley Quarry in China. The submerged Shurik Reservoir Quarry in Uzbekistan. The submerged quarry from another angle. As you can see, there are no natural rocks, mountains, valleys, or slopes on Earth. Have you ever pondered that while people argue online about whether the Earth is flat, like a pie, or perhaps slightly concave, our leaders are literally devouring our land, transforming it into deserts and scrapyard? Can you imagine quarries on Earth as large as some countries? For instance, in Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, and Iran, there is virtually no soil left in many areas of these countries, as the top layer of Earth, to a depth of 100 meters, has been stripped of all forms of life. It seems as though the Aral Sea and the Caspian Sea are merely massive submerged quarries. Indeed, all regions on the world maps that appear yellow on Google Maps are the sunken waste pits of quarries. Observe, in the center of this image is a cluster of vehicles. If we were to fill this quarry with a 15-meter layer of water, it would resemble the Sea of Azov. And this is the Sea of Azov, an old quarry now submerged. Note the smooth bottom, where giant rotating machines once operated. The maximum depth is 15 meters, and thorium may have been extracted from here. Here is the edge of the Karakum Desert, an area spanning 350,000 square kilometers. It seems that planet harvesters once worked here. In fact, the Yangakala Canyon Quarry in Turkmenistan appears to many as one of the wonders of the world, as does the Tibetan Plateau Quarry in Kazakhstan. The Monument Valley in the United States was once several hundred meters higher, with remnants of silica trees visible in the background. And this is the Monument Valley from another angle. Also in Namibia, this desert is the floor of a quarry. And in Egypt, the upper soil layer was stripped, and all life within it was incinerated by a nuclear explosion. Additionally, most of Australia has been completely stripped, leaving only a red desert behind. Here is Australia again. And this is the desert in Nigeria. This is Krivoporia, the Don River in Russia. And Krivoporia from another angle. In the middle of this tree-covered island stood a rotary excavator. This is Krutoval in Switzerland, most likely the work of a rotary excavator. Finally, the Nipari Quarry in Siberia. The conclusion is that deserts are entirely man-made, resulting from long-term mining activities. Therefore, you can easily and safely replace terms such as valleys, passages, rocks, and gorges with terms like quarry, mine, submerged quarry, and submerged mine. Now, let us examine the largest heaps of waste, officially known as volcanoes. Look at this image. This is a mound of rocky waste in Donbass, Ukraine, reaching a height of 300 meters. Inside it, chemical reactions occur, leading to combustion, and sometimes explosions when the internal pressure increases. Allow me to present this heap of waste, called Vesuvius in Italy. It stands 1,281 meters tall, but obsessed scientists will tell you it is a volcano, because it burns, and it even erupted once. and this is Mount Fuji in Japan. What is happening here? How do people believe what I cannot accept? We live in a desert and a giant quarry that we have turned into a scrapyard. So, if you think our leaders are merely deceiving us, you are still asleep. And if you think the earth is flat, you are half awake. Since we cannot trust anyone, perhaps it is time to think for ourselves. Reflect on what you have been told throughout your life and question everything. The earth is not as it appears through the matrix perspective we have been conditioned to accept. Open your eyes and minds and contemplate. Are you still asleep?